Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Pure Picks. Joined here by my man Alex, and we're here to break down UFC 296, Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. First off, Alex, how's your night going? How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I took a lot of notes for this UFC 296. I'm ready to rock and roll, ready to unleash some heat, some fire, and locks. Yeah, I'm super excited for this card. First off, before we get to this card, by the way, I do want to recap the results from UFC Fight Night Song versus Gutierrez that just happened last Saturday. That was a good card for us overall, I believe. We ended up with a profit on Bet MMA tips, and I would like to go over some of those results right now for the pure pickers, just so they can get a sense of what we got going on. So first off, as far as some of the parlays, I do want to talk about them. The first parlay that we did have, it was a loss. It was zero point 0.8 units. It was a plus, 341. So not too bad of an odds. But the first leg was Kevin Jusset to win. That ended up looking fantastic. Jusset was dominating that fight for all three rounds. Now the next two legs of this parlay, I do want to talk about. This was a really shaky kind of two legs that happened. I think that they were potential robberies, in my opinion. The first one was Andre Muniz versus Jun Young Park. I personally scored that 29-28 Park myself. I looked at some of the scorecards, looked really sketch. They gave Park, one judge gave Park round one, the other gave him round three. They were never able to reach a consensus on the scorecards. That was just a bad form overall, in my opinion. I think we should have got the dub there. What I will take from this as far as next time is I did mention that that was a possible buy low on Andre and maybe even a sell high on Park just because this was the level of competition where they're both kind of coming together. Park was dominating some scrubby kind of fighters, in my opinion, and Andre was fighting some of the best in like Brendan Allen. So it could have been a drop off in competition there. I did look at some of the media scorecards though, and I think that overall it did seem like everyone had Park 29-28. So, sometimes we're on the right decision, on the right side of the robbery. Sometimes we're on the wrong side. Turns out this time we're just on the wrong side of the robbery. So I'll gladly take the L there. I still think that was a decent pick. Rayanne, yeah, go
One
ahead.
one quick point is that yeah, even though a lot of people had Park to win that fight, he definitely didn't look like a minus 200 fighter.
Right.
So, maybe there was value in Muniz, but yeah, it sucks nonetheless.
Yeah, that value was not there for sure. And when you're going into a potential split decision kind of format because if you saw Park, he did have a split decision with Eric Anders, and this was probably going to play out similar to that, where he was getting taken down, controlled. You best want to be holding a dog ticket at the end of the day because that's where it's most likely going to go in terms of the value there. So I do understand that point. The other point that we had also was Rayanne Amanda versus Talita Allen Carr. That's similar style as what happened to Park and Muniz, right? I think Rayanne started off round one was pretty good. Round two was also decent. However, she did tail off in some of her cardio at the end, and round three was really close. So, although most of the scorecards and the media gave it to Rayanne 29-28, another part where we ended up on the wrong side of the decision there. So, that was another split decision loss where if let's say if we hit that parlay, that could have been a 3x on the zero point 0.8 units. That's like a 2.4 unit day right there for that parlay. So very close to hitting that. The next parlay that I believe Gerard kind of cooked up as well was Costa to win. I, as the fight went on, or not the fight, but as the week went on, I was getting a little less confident in Costa, and it turned out to be true just because Steve Garcia is the dog. So I see where Gerard was looking at that for Costa, but you just don't want to disrespect to Steve Garcia, who's just a straight up dog sometimes. And that plus value was really good for him too. So overall, only zero point 0.2 units lost from that. The next one, Alex, would you like to explain the song Inside the Distance?
Yeah, so I mean, I really thought this one was gonna hit, man. But props to Chris. Um, Super durable guy. I mean, he was close, but I don't know, like if you guys watched that fight in the I think it was fourth round, he got knocked down. Then he was kind of just pulling guard, and then fifth round he did some like funny shit where like he grabbed the ankle or something and did like some. He basically pulled guard because like he knew like he didn't have it anymore. Um, but yeah, props to Chris for staying alive there. So I read that fight a little bit wrong in terms of the inside the distance bet. Um, and then in terms of my parlay, I did the Kevin Jusset over 1.5. The over 2.5 hit as well, so that one was a lock. Uh, Tatsuro Taira, I mean, easy, looking like a shoot the box spider out there. And finally, Song Yadong to win. Like I told you guys, man, this guy is money, dude. Like, yeah, Song is just like I think he's a future champion. I mean, one thing that I really like about him is like his swag inside the octagon. Like in that fight against Chris, like he got Chris threw like a kick down like a teep kick, and it hit him in the face, and he was like, "Yo, it's good, let's go." So and like he's a good looking guy. He's learning English, so he definitely has like the makeup to be a future champion, in my opinion.
Definitely, yeah, and that's why at the end of the day we agreed to just do a 5 unit gigabomb on his money line. I mean, I wish we would have did 10. Just looking back at how the fight played out, because Chris Gutierrez literally had no chance. The only thing he was trying to do was survive in there with Song. So that was a great just shove there for Song. And also just going back to one of my other parlays, I also had Tyra, Song, and then Khalil Roundtree was another one of my legs that really held out to be true. He just dominated, out physical Anthony Smith throughout the fight, pulled back the hammer fist of doom. I said
He
that was
fucking
crazy.
loaded up a nuke,
Yeah,
and
that was
the
man.
ref was like, "Oh hell nah, so let's end this shit."
Yeah, man, because the ref was seeing and what Khalil was seeing. I mean, like this, Anthony Smith was just like rolling around, trying to not get hit anymore, and man,
Yeah,
that could have been a career ender right there if he allowed any more damage. So, a good ref stoppage there. We usually don't say that enough, but that was a good ref stoppage just to kind of lessen the damage, lessen the blows. Overall, decent night. I think that if some of the parlays earlier hit, it would have been an even better night. But we'll improve for the next time. Really get some giga locks in there, and I think that now is a great time actually. UFC 296. That's going to be a good time for some giga locks because I see some great spots here. I think I know Alex does too. So let's just get started with the breakdown and move forward and go from there. So the first fight that we have on UFC 296, it will be a welterweight matchup between Randy Brown and Muslim Salikhov. This will be an interesting fight to start off the card overall. I think Randy Brown right now, he's 17-5, 4-1 in his last five. He's coming off of the decision win over Wellington Turman. He's facing off against Muslim Salikhov, the king of kung fu. He's also kind of a similar record, 19-4, 3-2 in his last five, and he is coming off a loss, I believe, to Nicholas Dalby, right there. So, looking at the age of these fighters, also, by the way, I mean, Muslim Salikhov's obviously 39 years old. Randy Rude Boy Brown's 33, so there will be an age gap right there. Also, there will be a length and height reach advantage for Randy Brown. Obviously, he's going to be the much longer fighter overall in this matchup. Now, going back to the odds for this fight, Randy Brown right now, he's a minus 245, and he opened up at a minus 175. So the Randy train is coming along right there. Alex, I'll let you go ahead and break down this fight first, and I'll share my thoughts after. What do you think about this first fight that we have in the card?
yeah. So my pick here is going to be Randy Brown. Um, what I will say first is that I do think Salikhov is a very solid fighter. I think he utilizes both his hands and his feet very well. And I really like his kind of calm demeanor in the octagon. Um, but I don't. I think for this fight, like Randy Brown he's going to be way too lengthy and rangy for a 39-year-old Salikhov. I think if this was like a younger Salikhov, um, he would have a like much better shot. I think he would maybe probably even win, because Randy Brown can definitely get cracked. Um, but I think for Salikhov to win in this fight, I feel like he needs to shoot for some takedowns here, and he's basically going to need to capitalize on those handful of moments where he like breaks that range and engages Randy Brown. But I think, yeah, again, Randy Brown is just way too lengthy. He's decent enough at maintaining that range. Um, so I think Salikov is just going to get gassed. And so I have Randy Brown here.
Definitely. And are you confident enough in Randy Brown to potentially put him in a parlay or maybe a play or anything?
Yeah, I think I am. I feel pretty confident about this pick just because, I've also seen Salikov cracked as well. He was getting rocked by Dalby. Um, he was getting pushed against a cage by Dalby for the majority of the third round. And so I've seen Salikov slow down. And again, 39 years old. I just think Randy Brown has this. So I feel pretty confident putting him into parlays.
Mm, fantastic. Okay. So, the breakdown of this fight for me, from my perspective, is I think that Randy, he's an above average striker, really uses his range well, reach advantage, likes to fight from the outside. He does have quick hands and kicks. I think that he keeps his opponent at a distance. He does a really good job of doing that. I don't think he has the best power though. Not a lot of pop in his strikes. He only has two KOs in the UFC, comprising of 18% of his UFC wins. I think he's mainly a decision fighter. 55% of his UFC wins have been decision wins, but he can also snatch up an opportunistic sub every now and then. I believe he has a 27% of his wins from subs in the UFC so far. He doesn't really have a good takedown accuracy. It's at 39%, and he lands less than a takedown per fight. He does use trips and throws more than the standard double legs, single legs that wrestlers usually use. I think that in this matchup against a Salikhov, who's a solid Sanda striker, likes to throw heavy shots, you can also get flashy with some of his strikes and do some spinning attacks as well. I do think that the age gap is going to be quite glaring, though. I mean, Muslim Salikhov did not look the same after he fought before he fought Dalby. I think before he fought Dalby, he looked way better, and you saw that his gas tank was really not there. He did really well in round one against Nicholas Dalby and was just outdogged in the later portions. So I just don't think that his gas tank is going to be all the way there. He's 39 right now, turning 40. That's not a good recipe usually. I will say that in Randy's last fight against Wellington Turman, who we had a great time with too a couple weeks ago. Randy Brown gassed out in the later rounds as well compared to his first round pace. So I think that Randy Brown, he is not going to be in his prime anymore at age 33. I think he's slowly exiting it. But overall, my pick is going to be Randy Brown. It should be enough to beat a Muslim Salikov at this point. I think Randy Brown by decision could be a potential good pick here. I will probably stay away from it though. I'm not gonna be too comfortable in putting him in my parlays just because I don't trust Ryan Brown enough in this matchup after what he showed against Wellington Turman. He beat Wellington Turman 29-28. However, it just wasn't convincing enough for me to lock him in as a parlay piece. The one piece that I do like in this matchup, and right now you could get it on Bet Online, one of our affiliates, is the over 1.5. So there's an over 1.5 round line right now. It's minus 265. It opened up at minus 220 and has since been bet to minus 265. I look at that as a potential parlay piece. I think that Randy Brown will be durable and not be dangerous enough to knock out Muslim Salikhov within a round and a half. And same thing on the other side. I think that Muslim, although he has a bad gas tank at this point, I think that he's going to be somewhat good for at least a round and a half. So give me the over as a potential parlay piece right there. And yeah, I might stuff that into my parlays. I think I do feel pretty high confident about that. What do you think about the over, by the way? Just curious.
Um, I think I think it's solid. I mean, I have seen both of these fighters get cracked,
Yeah,
and yeah, yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I mean, I could see why it would be a good play. I could see your logic in how you got there, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would play it.
for sure, for sure. Well, let's see what happens on Saturday. I think that'll be an interesting fight nonetheless. Moving on to the next fight that we have on the prelims, we have Shamil Gaziev versus Martin Buday. I'm not sure if I said that right, by the way. Shamil, he is 11-0, 5-0 in his last five. I think he's coming off of the Dana White Contender Series win, and he's fighting up against Martin Buday versus he has 13-1 record. He's 5-0 in his last five also, and he's coming off of a win as well. They're both around the same age here, around the same height and the same reach. So both these guys are pretty similar in terms of their physicality and physical dimensions. Right now, the odds for this fight, Martin Buday is minus 143. He is opened up at a minus 200. He actually did get bet instantly to a minus 110 at Pick'em and has since bet to a minus 143 at that time. Shamil, I actually watched some tape of this guy. He's a powerful, big heavyweight. I think he's actually pretty decent all around offensively. He's a pretty fast starter as well. He likes the pressure with his powerful strikes, solid wrestling, has a variety of trips and single legs. When he gets on top, I think he has solid pressure as well. He's able to chain his takedown attempts, good ground and pound early on in the fight. I do think that Shamil keeps his hands a bit low and relies on a lot of durability in his chin as his defense sometimes. And the more that he wrestles, the quicker his cardio fades throughout the fight. So I think that that might be a potential disadvantage here because Martin is also a solid all round fighter. He has decent power in his striking, also good grappling. He's able to grind out wins as a heavyweight with his cardio. He's done that plenty of times. Aside from, I think, his last fight where he subbed um, Josh
Parisian.
Parisian with the Kimura, yeah. He beat Jay Collier the same way, just kind of outgrinded him for 3 rounds. Beat Lucas Bresky the same way in that decision win there. I mean, this guy can last definitely all 15 seconds with that kind of heavyweight pace, if you will. I think that also Martin, he likes to use the cage a lot and his weight to control and grind on his opponents. He pumps out pretty decent volume for heavyweight. I do think that he is hit a fair amount of times as well for as much volume as he pumps out. He sports a less than stellar strikes landed absorb ratio. He absorbs 5.4 strikes per minute, and he lands 5.62 strikes landed per minute. I will say right now I'm leaning Shamil by knockout or decision. I can see either one of them. However, I do like the over 1.5 at minus 200 here as a potential parlay piece, just because of how both of these guys could fight. Right now, my lean is Shamil, and I like the over 1.5, but I would love to see more of a face-off way and just see how both these heavy dudes kind of look together, see how big each of them, because in terms of their dimensions and reported height and weight, it's pretty similar. So I want to see them face off and see how actually they look face to face. Alex, what do you think about this fight between Shamil and Martin Buday here?
Yeah, man, it's funny you mentioned the over 1.5 because I have that as well.
Yeah,
Really like that. It's like I got in at minus 190, so it's like minus 200 now. Um, but yeah, I think that Boudet is ultra durable, and Shamil can lean on his wrestling to burn clock. So that's kind of like my logic of the over 1.5. Um, but I mean, if there was if the under were to hit, it's definitely going to be on Shamil's side, I think. Um, but yeah, no, in terms of like picking a fighter, I don't really have a good read. I said I lean Buday just because I've seen him do it in the UFC. Whereas I kind of want to fade these like contender series fighters. Um, but Shamil is also Dagestani and Russian, so like I don't know, man. I don't really want to fade that either. So yeah, leaning Buday, but I like the over 1.5.
Yeah, no, I like that piece too. I think that's something that's gonna hit. It's always one of those things where people usually think heavyweights and they think that, hey, wow, it's over 1.5 line, something might happen. But sometimes that over 1.5, I mean, it hits a lot over, especially if you're kind of comparing what kind of heavyweights are in that fight. So I
Yeah.
think that this is a case of that where I truly believe that it's probably going to go over 1.5 for this case, just because of how both these guys fight and how durable they are, and all that stuff.
I I will say though, I think it's going to come down to whether Buday can stuff Shamil's takedowns. Um,
Mm,
if he can do it, or if he can survive being in bottom position, I think Shamil kind of gasses out, and so Buday can win that way. But yeah, we'll see.
yeah, yeah, definitely. We'll see what happens during that fight. Be an interesting one for sure. Nice
Yeah.
heavyweight banger for the second fight of prelims. Let's go on to the next fight, and we're chartering some more proven entities in the UFC that have had a lot of good fights. It's going to be Andre Fili versus Lucas Almeida. This will be a fight at the 145-pound division, at the featherweight division. So right now, Andre Fili, he's actually 22-10. He's coming off that loss with a unanimous decision loss against Nathaniel Wood. He's facing off against Lucas Almeida, 14-2. Lucas is coming off of that just grapple, lack of a better term, grapple fuck
Yeah.
Pat Sabatini, where Pat Sabatini just took him down, then eventually just found a choke right there. Right now, as far as just their measurables, is actually kind of similar. They're both the same height. Andre Touchy Fili will have a 3-inch reach advantage there. Odds for this fight right now, just to give you an idea, Andre Fili is minus 173, opened up at minus 200. So some action has been taken on Lucas Almeida. Alex, I'll let you go ahead and start off this breakdown. What do you think between this fight between Fili and Almeida here?
Yeah. So I think this one is another tough one for me personally to pick a side, mainly because I've seen both fighters get cracked. At the end of round one, for Lucas Almeida's fight against Trezano, he almost got put out at the end of round one. And obviously, Fili has been cracked, multiple times. Um, I think that this fight is going to stay standing for the most part, until someone lands, like a heavy blow into, ground strikes or ground and pound. Um, I think it would be really smart in this fight if Fili shoots for takedowns. Um, and I think he can have some success from shooting takedowns. What I like a long shot play here that I really like is this fight to end in submission. Um, I think how I see this fight playing out is one fighter is going to crack the other fighter, and then immediately jump the submission. So um, I like to play fight to end in submission, but in terms of picking a side, I would say Fili, because I just like the quality of his opponents more so than Lucas Almeida.
Got it. Got it. That's a good read right there. I do like that. Now, for me and how I broke down this fight, I mean, touchy feely. I think he's a good all-round brawler. He likes to use his length as well, keeps his opponents on the outside, has good straight shots, good kicks, pressure. I also think he's a good wrestler and a grappler. He's great at opportunistic takedowns, really scrambles really well. The one detriment that has been kind of carrying him throughout his career is that he is hittable. and relies on his chin and durability as his defense. Has mixed results thus far in the UFC with those kind of tendencies. He's 7-5 in UFC decisions. He's been subbed twice, has no subs of his own, and he has 3 knockout wins and 2 knockout losses. So kind of mixed bag right there. He does have a 69% takedown defense and can get taken down himself a fair bit of times. If you saw that fight against Bryce Mitchell was just taking him down at will. Fili also has a decent gas tank, but at this point, I think the durability is the bigger question mark. With a guy like Almeida, I mean, Lucas is a striker, just has very little to no grappling. He does like to throw heavy, has KO power in his shots. He can be a bit wild at times, which works to his advantage and disadvantage. I I think that on the feet, Lucas has proven to be able to strike for all 3 rounds, unless he is taken down and grounded like his last fight. The only sure thing that I'll say for this fight is I know that Lucas is going to strike, but I don't know what Andre Fili is going to do, to be honest. I don't know if this guy is going to wrestle and use that wrestling skill set to beat a guy like Lucas Almeida. If I did, then I would probably go Andre Fili just because we saw what happened with Lucas against Pat Sabatini. The pick here is going to be Andre Fili, but I'm staying away from this fight completely as I do not trust either fighter. I remember, I think last time that Fili fought Wood, I was on his side, and it just did not leave a good taste in my mouth. I mean, he's fought, he was a dog for sure, but I'll rather have him as a dog as opposed to a favorite like he is now, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, I'm staying away from this fight. I'm probably just going to watch it, but the pick here is Andre Fili by decision. All right, next up we have Tagir Ulanbekov versus Cody Durden. This will be a fight in the flyweight division. Tagir's 14-2. He is 4-1 his last five. He's coming off that submission victory over Nate Maness. He's facing off against Cody Durden, 16-4-1, 4-1 his last five, coming off that decision victory over Jake Hadley. Both of these guys are around the same age, and Tagir will enjoy a 3-inch reach advantage here. Odds for this fight right now, Tagir is a -170 favorite, opened up at a -128. And Alex, I'll let you go ahead and start off Tagir versus Cody here. What do you think about this fight?
Um, I think I think Cody's a solid dog in this fight, man. I think his improved striking since he joined American Top Team ATT has really unlocked his wrestling. Um, and I think Tagir's body frame is kind of perfect for Cody to be able to get those level change takedowns. Um, Tagir has like this, lengthy frame, similar to like Saeed Nurmagomedov, um, while Cody is much more bulky, sturdier, and low center of gravity. So I feel like Cody, he'll have some success, getting those takedowns. And I know that Tagir has very slick um, grappling and wrestling, and he also has a very good get-up game. But I think, Cody, he's gonna be prepared for that. Like his last fight against Jake Hadley, was a very good BJJ guy. But Cody wasn't afraid to take him down and wrestle with him. And so, yeah, I like Cody in this fight, man. I think he's also an absolute dog, and that's kind of like the type of fighters that you want to have your money on. Again, keep repeating that. It's like it's definitely like a big factor, in fighting. If you have like that fighting spirit where you're just never gonna give up, like it's like a big thing for sure. So yeah, I think I like Cody here as an underdog.
Yeah, I could see why. Just for reference, pure pickers, Cody in his last 4 fights has been an underdog, and he's cashed in each of those 4 fights as an underdog. So this guy is definitely he works well as an underdog. That's for sure. He's been proven to do that. Tagir, let me talk about him. He's a pressure wrestler, also good at takedowns. I think he does have long arms and reach for the 125 division. He can implement a lot of chokes specifically to sub his opponents with those long arms. He also has decent boxing. I think that he has a good jab, decent straight behind it. Mainly uses that 1-2 to hide his takedowns, which is what he ultimately wants to do. Cody is also a solid pressure wrestler. He also has good takedowns, 50% takedown accuracy. I like that Cody chains his takedowns and is relentless. Has good cardio, pace, constantly shoots. Also, like you mentioned as well, Cody has underrated striking as well. I think he actually has pretty good power for the 125 division. He can throw some bombs if needed. Cody's also a fast starter and has a high motor and durable. So that's a triple threat right there. If you're a fast starter, high motor, fight for that the whole 15 minutes, that's a really good combination right there. The one thing that I will say is that Cody has been a little susceptible to being subbed. If you look at some of his losses, he does have three submission losses, two in the UFC. He was flying triangle choked by Jimmy Flick. That was more of a kind of meme finish there, right? That doesn't happen that often. But in his fight against Muhammad Mokaev, this guy shot for a takedown and was instantly put in a guillotine choke by Mokaev. So he has shown to be like subbed in that style, and I could easily see Tagir doing that with his long arms and choking this guy out if he's too aggressive. Right now, I actually lean towards Tagir by sub. I think that Cody, he's just going to be so amped up and he's going to try to prove that his wrestling is a lot better than this guy. And I feel like we're going to get a finish similar to how Mokaev did it. I don't think it'll be as fast, but I think at some point he will get subbed. However, I'm staying away from this fight as I could also see from your viewpoint, Durden grinding out a decision victory. Because Tagir, if you look at his fight against Tim Elliott pretty much out grappled him, out wrestled him, out like he was just doing everything to Gear. I think that that could easily happen in this fight as well. So pick here is to Gear by sub, but I'm most likely staying away from this and saving my units for elsewhere on the fight card. Let's move on to the next fight here that we have on the prelims. We have Alonzo Menifield versus Dustin Jacoby at the light heavyweight division. Alonzo Atomic Menifield, he is 14-3-1. He is 4-1-1, 3-1-1, sorry, in his last five fights. He's coming off that victory over Jimmy Crute. He'll be fighting Dustin Jacoby, 19-7-1. He's coming off that KO victory over Kenny Nchukwu. He is 35 years old. Alonzo's 36, and he will enjoy a 3-inch height advantage. They both have the same reach as well. Looking at the odds for this fight, Alonzo Menifield and Dustin Jacoby. Jacoby is actually a minus 270 right now. So the odds are definitely widening right now. Dustin Jacoby opened up at a minus 155. So people are kind of buying in on the Jacoby hype after his knockout win right there. I think this is going to be an interesting fight. Pretty difficult to cap at times. Alonzo, he's a powerful and athletic 205er. I think he has decent striking technique, but relies more so on the natural power and speed to go KO his opponents with punches pretty much. He's a bit wild with his strikes. I do think that he leaves himself exposed at times. I think that Alonzo has wrestling in his back pocket to go along with his powerful striking. He has okay takedowns, but more so for opponents that are like super weak in takedown defense. He has good top control, has nasty ground and pound. I think that he has two subs in the UFC and is a opportunistic sub threat after hurting and controlling his opponents, like you saw in his last win against Jimmy Crute. He also has a 75% takedown defense and likes to work his way back up. I don't think he's going to have to worry too much about takedowns in this fight just because Dustin Jacoby is more of a kickboxer. Now, the one thing that I think he does have to worry about is Alonzo does not have the best cardio. I do think that he fades later on in fights, shows less power as the fight goes on. Just go watch his first fight between Jimmy Crute, right? He was doing pretty well, but he kept on getting grounded. And also, he was kind of fading a bit with his cardio there in terms of his striking power. I will say that Dustin Jacoby is a technical kickboxer, super clean technique with the hands and the kicks. pushes a good pace and volume for a light heavyweight. He's able to use his leg kicks well and is able to counter smoothly. He also has a solid takedown defense, likes to make opponents pay for their entries. Jacoby was knocked down in his fight against Azamat, was wearing a lot of damage, I believe, on his face against Khalil Roundtree, where he lost a split dub. I think that he may have an issue with power strikers as he has exited his prime. He's the kind of fighter that likes to move around a lot, do a lot of flashy stuff, sometimes with his hands, kind of showboat a little bit. And the more and more you do that as advanced age, I feel like you can just get caught by a powerful strike here and there. Right now, just because of how this stylistic matchup will probably play out, I will say that I think Dustin Jacoby will probably win by decision, but I am not too confident in that. That's probably a low confidence pick for me. I'm also probably leaning towards staying away from this fight entirely and just watching it because I don't think I trust either of these fighters too much to lay any units down on them. So a pick here is Dustin Jacoby by decision, but I'm probably staying away from this. Alex, what do you think about this fight between Menifield and Dustin Jacoby here?
So I think Dustin is a rightful favorite here. Um, I think Menifield's win condition is, like a right hook to the dome for knockout. Um, Otherwise, I just see Dustin kind of, outpointing Menifield from distance, just chipping him away, wearing him down. Um, and also, like you mentioned, Dustin has, been in the cage with some hard hitters like Roundtree. So I mean, he does have some experience. He does have experience against hard hitters. Um, so I like Dustin here. I think he's the rightful favorite. In terms of putting him in parlays, I'm not sure yet. I do think he's gonna win. Again, like if your win condition is a right hook, like a knockout or something, I don't know. I feel like edges with Dustin. So, but not 100% sure, but we'll see.
Yeah. I have a kind of same feeling about this fight that you have generally. I think that just not sure if I trust either of these guys too much to kind of kind of will themselves to victory, if you will. So yeah, we'll see what happens in that fight. Next fight that we have on the card is going to be our first WMMA fight of the night. It'll be Casey King O'Neill versus Ariane Lipski. This is going to be, I think, actually entertaining matchup for women's. We've had some stinkers here and there for women's MMA matchups, but I think this actually could be a good one. Now, Casey O'Neill, she is 9-1. She is 4-1 in her last five. She's coming off that decision loss to Jennifer Maya, and she's fighting against Ariane Lipski, 16-8. She is 3-2 in her last five, and she's coming off of that split decision victory over Melissa Gatto. Both of these ladies have the same height, and O'Neill does enjoy a 2-inch reach advantage, and she's going to be the slightly younger fighter here. Now, the odds for this fight, I think, are pretty interesting as well. Casey O'Neill is a minus 205 right now. She opened up at minus 265. So people have been buying in on the dog odds on Ariane Lipski, which makes sense, right? I mean, recent trend so far, mostly that I've seen at least, is that women's MMA maybe just take the dog. The dogs have been cashing at a pretty good rate as far as women's MMA fights. I think this fight might be different though, just because I think that Casey, she's a decent kickboxer, likes to mix it up with Muay Thai strikes as well. She fights an aggressive style and is able to push out good volume. She lands 8.77 strikes per minute. Now, with this style, she's also a little hittable. She absorbs 5.9 strikes per minute. So it's a give and take with her style. I do think that the trump card that Casey has is that she's actually a pretty good wrestler and decent wrestler. She likes to outmuscle her opponents when she has the physicality advantage. I think that she has good top control and is able to use sweeps well and can reverse positions. Casey, let's just say she looked a little rusty off of that knee injury, right? I think that fight with Jennifer Maya that was a tough first fight to go back after injuring her knee. I think that she looked rusty and probably a little just off. I think that with another full camp and more time removed from that knee, she's going to look better and maybe back to her previous fights where she was just finishing people. I think that's going to be an issue for Lipsky just because Lipsky's a solid Muay Thai fighter. Likes to strike in flurries, good kicks with nice pop at the end. I think that she has decent jiu-jitsu skills when she's the one controlling and being aggressive. But her track record, if she is controlled on the bottom, she has shown inconsistencies in her grappling in the past. Although I will say she is improving, especially in the last couple of fights. She's coming off two straight wins due to the improvement in her grappling over JJ Aldridge and Melissa Gatto. But I think that Casey will be the toughest test in the grappling department since her loss to Montana De La Rosa, where she was ground and pounded and lost. So the pick here is going to be Casey O'Neill by decision. I see Casey taking her down, controlling her for the majority of the fight. I'll say medium confidence play. I think that Casey is actually also a potential parlay piece, as I think that this is going to be the sell high on Lipski due to her recent strength of schedule. She's been fighting Melissa Gatto, who I don't think is that good after upon further review. JJ Aldridge, who is a no. That's just a no. So yeah, give me Casey O'Neill. I know that that might be an unpopular opinion just based on the trend that we've been seeing, but I think that this is a buy low on Casey. So give me Casey O'Neill. What do you think about this fight, Alex, between O'Neill and Lipski here?
Um, well, what do you think about that system play over 2.5 women's MMA?
Yeah, that could be a good piece too. I mean, like I think that's solid. The only reason that I'll probably have a little bit of doubt is that I could see Lipsy getting taken down and just ground and pounded because Casey O'Neill has had, I think, two or three ground and pound victories and KO victories in her UFC career thus far. And
Hmm.
Lipski's been finished twice like that in her UFC career. It was early on in her career, obviously, but that could come into play. But I think the over 2.5 is still a solid system play nonetheless. I just like Casey O'Neill a little bit more than 2.5, if that makes sense for
Yeah,
me.
yeah, no, I mean, look, I even said in my notes that, I can't see, basically, I can't see O'Neal losing to a sub or a knockout. She seems very, very durable, which is why, like, I feel like the play is either, the over 2.5 or Casey O'Neal inside the distance, decision, no action. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty safe, especially, the Casey O'Neal inside the distance. Because, dude, there's no way Lipski is, uh, knocking Casey O'Neill out. I just don't see it happening. So um, yeah, give me. I would just go with that bet. I don't want to pick a fighter. I'm just gonna say Casey O'Neill inside the distance, decision, no action.
Awesome. Let me check what the odds are for that right now, just
Did they
to
even
make
come
it.
out with that? I don't think they came out with that. Oh,
Yeah, let me
maybe.
see
Oh,
if
the market
I think they
drop.
did. Yeah, I think it dropped today or something. Uh, that's minus 260 right now. So not, I mean, not too bad if you want to pay the juice.
Just 2.6 units right there. Get your money back. So
Exactly.
Lipski is not
Exactly.
knocking O'Neill out, man.
Yeah, yeah. No, I tend to agree with you for sure that that could play out to be true there.
I don't know. It's a little scary though, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I just feel this about low Casey. I don't know. She came in with a lot of hype, and I like to buy low sometimes. So yeah, let's see what happens. So, but I don't know. I might get convinced to put her in a parlay. We'll see though. Maybe not just because it wins anyway. Let's move on to the next fight. We have on the prelim still Cody Garbrandt versus Brian Kelleher. Man, this is gonna be. I can't believe Cody's fighting on the prelims, man. This is crazy. So Cody, no love, 13-5. He is 2-3 in his last five. He's actually coming off of that decision victory over Trevin Jones, and he's fighting against Brian Kelleher, 24-14. So very much a veteran in MMA at this point. He is 2-3 in his last five. He's coming off of that submission loss to Mario Batista, where he just looked really bad, in my opinion. He will be the older fighter here. Cody will be 32, Brian will be 37, and Cody will be just the overall larger fighter in the cage. The odds for this fight right now, Cody is minus 220. He opened up at minus 160. So interesting line movement odds there. Alex, I'll let you start off with a breakdown here for Cody No Love and Brian. What do you think about this fight?
So for this fight, I kind of like the over 2.5 here. Um, so I think Kelleher is gonna might have some success, with the takedowns. It's kind of similar to the Tagir and Durden fight, where Cody has a skinnier frame and Kelleher is, stockier, lower center of gravity. So I kind of like that in terms of the sturdier guy being able to, use that strength to get the skinnier guy down. Um, and then Cody also seems to fight at a relatively slow pace. Um, and if I look at like the losses on each of these fighters, Kelleher has been submitted an obscene amount of times. But he won't need to worry about that because Cody has no submission wins, I believe. Let me see.
Yeah, he has zero.
Yeah. So, and then in terms of being knocked out, Kelleher has only been knocked out once in the third round. And then Cody, on the other hand, he has been cracked most recently against Kai Kara in the first round. Um, so there's definitely some worry there, but I think Cody's going to try and, maintain distance and range. And so, um, yeah, I kind of like the 2.5 here. I think it's a solid bet.
For sure. Yeah, I agree with some of the things that you said. I think Cody No Love, he's a fantastic boxer to me. I think he has quick, powerful hands, able to work in combos. I think he grew up boxing. He's like a Golden Gloves champ or something like that in his youth. Great footwork, can move inside the cage well. Just everyone do yourself a favor, peer pickers, go watch the Dominic Cruz versus Cody Garbrandt fight. I mean, this guy was in the Matrix that fight. Like I've never seen a 135er fight like that, like ever. Like that was just some crazy striking that he did against on Dom Cruz right there. Cody's also a solid wrestler. He grew up in the team alpha male kind of camp, so I think he uses more of a defensive wrestling grappling than offensive, though. He likes to sprawl and brawl usually, has a 78% takedown defense. He can also mix in takedowns when his opponent's weak in that area. We just saw an example of that fight in his last win against Trevin Jones. He's not a sub threat like you mentioned, so he mixes in his takedowns just to throw off his opponents and protect that chin at this point. Like I mentioned just now, Cody's biggest weakness is his chin and durability. He could be called Cody No Chin at this point. Each strike that he takes looks like it may put his lights out at any point. I I witnessed this just because I was on his side against Trevin Jones in that last fight, and he was doing great. Like I was like, oh, this is good. Like this is easy money. It's looking great. And then at the end, there was like a few shots there that Trevin hit him, and I was worried, like fuck. Like I was like, oh man, this guy's gonna get starched again because it just looks like he's not able to take that damage anymore for whatever. I mean, his chin is basically gone at this point. So just because of that, I'm gonna stay away from this. I haven't even broken down Kelleher yet, but I just don't like. I feel like Cody's just a much better fighter here. I think he should be like if you just like compare the skill sets. I think he should be at like a minus 400, 500. But it's just the chin that is really. I just don't think that anybody trusts this guy's chin anymore. I mean, Brian's a solid boxer. He's also okay grappler, mixing in combos as well on the feet with his boxing. He does like to get into scrambles. Is comfortable in grappling situations. Likes to pull a guillotine, hunt for subs. But I think that this is going to be a mainly stand-up battle, and I just can't trust Cody to protect his chin at this point. If I did, then I would shove him. But yeah, Cody by decision for me. I could easily see him getting starched though. And yeah, so I'm gonna stay away from this fight. Probably just enjoy it. I'll root for Cody because I do like him as a fighter, but I just don't think that his chin is there anymore, personally. Um, Let's move on to the next fight that we have between Irene Aldana versus Karol Rosa. This is going to be still on the prelims here. Irene Aldana, 14-7. She is 3-2 actually in her last five. She's coming off of that dominating loss, but off of Amanda Nunes, the GOAT, to send her off into retirement there. She is 35 years old, and she's fighting against Karol Rosa, 17-5. She's 3-2 in her last five. She's coming off of that decision split victory over Yana Santos. She'll be the younger fighter here at 28 compared to 35 for Aldana, and she'll be the slightly smaller fighter in terms of reach advantage. But she does. Irene has a 4-inch height advantage here. Right now, odds for this fight: Irene Aldana is a minus 220. She opened up at a minus 163 for this fight. You know, to me, Aldana has good, solid boxing. I think that she's pretty good hands, actually. She's able to pump out a good volume, work in some counters. She has good just movement around the cage as well. Aside from her boxing, she has a decent leg kick that she uses to mix it up. I also think that this is not going to sound that great, but she is a decent grappler even after that loss with Amanda Nunes. I mean, that's just what the GOAT does to people. Amanda just dominated her in terms of the grappling there. She can be held down for long periods of time, but I do like that she's active off her back and can threaten with strikes and the sub every now and then. If you watch her fight with Macy Chiasson, I think she finished that fight with like a crazy kick to the liver or something when she was on the ground. So I think that in this fight against Karol Rosa, who's an active striker on the feet, good pressure, cardio to pump out volume on her opponents, her pressure striking does lead to her having a below average striking defense at 48%. But, Rosa is also a decent grappler. I think that she is also more of an offensive grappler, which she could use in this fight. However, I think that she mainly uses that clinch work and the cage work in her grappling to overwhelm smaller opponents. And Aldana is going to be the bigger girl here. So I'm leaning Aldana by decision because of her size and just her overall boxing. I do like the over 2.5 here as a parlay piece. So right now the over 2.5 is minus 350, I believe. I think that is safe to parlay. So the pick here is Aldana by decision, but I like the over 2.5 here. Alex, what do you think about Aldana versus Karol Rosa here?
So I like Aldana in this matchup. I think Rosa is a bit too stationary for an opponent like Aldana. Um, I know Aldana had a really poor performance, like you mentioned in her last fight, but that's Amanda, and she kind of does that to everybody. So,
Yeah,
kind of give her a pass for that one. Um, so yeah, I just think this is a much better matchup for Aldana. She'll be able to utilize her calf kicks to set up her hands, and yeah, I think she's just going to be too much for Rosa.
for sure. What do you think about the over 2.5? Do you think it's too juiced, or would you play it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that one. I think the reason I don't know is because I would rather just bet Aldana as
Got it.
opposed to the over 2.5. But that's me.
Awesome. That makes sense. Awesome. Well, let's move on to the next fight here. I believe that this will be the feature prelim of the night. We have Josh Emmett versus Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell is actually stepping in on short notice here. He's replacing Giga Chikaze, if I'm remembering correctly.
Hmm.
So Josh Emmett right now, he's 18-4. He is 3-2 in his last five. He's coming off of that just thorough beating that he took from Ilya Taporia about 5 months ago. He is fighting against Bryce Mitchell, Thug Nasty himself, 16-1, 4-1 in his last five, coming off of that decision victory over Dan Ige. Josh Emmett's going to be the older fighter here at 38 years old compared to 29 for Bryce Mitchell. Bryce is going to be the taller fighter, has 4-inch height advantage. Both of them have the same reach here. Right now, Josh Emmett and Bryce Mitchell, the odds. I'm actually kind of surprised by this because Bryce Mitchell is a minus 235. He opened up at a minus 185, coming on short notice. Usually don't see that too often for short notice fighters. Alex, I'll let you start off the breakdown between Josh Emmett and Bryce Mitchell. What do you think about this feature prelim that we have here?
Yeah, so I'm picking Bryce to win here. Um, so I was like looking through Josh Emmett's history, fight history, to you know trying to find the last fighter that he's faced who was going to implement some sort of a wrestling or grappling game plan against Emmett, but I could not find one in any in the last 4 years, and so I don't think Emmett is ready for an opponent like Bryce. Someone who's like relentless with the grappling, the chain wrestling, where once he grabs a hold of your leg, he's just not going to let go. I don't think Emmett is ready for that. Um, and at 38, after the damage that he just took against Ilya, like you mentioned, um, I don't think he's going to have the gas tank. So I think it's going to be a bad look for Emmett in this fight. And I'm just assuming here, but I don't think Emmett has, wrestling skills at all. Like in his fight against Yair, um, where, the game plan should be pretty easy. Like, just take Yair down, similar to what Volk did. Um, he was trying to go blow for blow against Yair. And when he did eventually kind of knock Yair down, he got subbed from top position. And so it's kind of a bad look. Um, so Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Bryce is the rightful favorite here. But Emmett, when you look at his kind of like frame, it does look like he's pretty sturdy. He does look like he has a low center of gravity. But I just don't think Emmett is ready for an opponent like Bryce. So give me Bryce here.
Do you feel comfortable putting Bryce as a parlay piece, perhaps?
We'll see. I do have him in a parlay right now. So Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty comfortable, but yeah, we'll see as the week goes on.
Definitely. Yeah, I have similar thoughts to you. I mean, Josh, I think he's actually a pretty solid striker, mostly a boxer, has KO power in the hands, able to use footwork and speed to cut off the cage and hunt his opponents down. He has a good jab, knows how to work the body, pumps out decent volume and pace, mixed in with his power. Good successful kind of recipe right there. Now, Josh, he does have a wrestling background, but he prefers to strike. He uses his wrestling and jiu-jitsu skill set to defend takedowns and get up most of the time. I think Josh is, at this point in his career, 38 years old, turning 39. His best attribute is probably his durability and toughness. I mean, he's a tough customer. He survived a beating from Ilya Tapor for 25 minutes. Not many people can do that, honestly. I mean, look what happened to Bryce Mitchell. He got knocked out or subbed by Ilya Tapor in 2 rounds, right? So, I mean, Josh does have some durability, even if his just skills on the feet and just wrestling overall has kind of gone down over the years due to his age. Bryce is, still in the prime of his career at terms of age 29. Good MMA wrestler, able to chain takedowns and hunt for subs. He's able to transition and flow well in his grappling and able to take the back. And he has the ability to scramble well and constantly chain sub attempts together. I think the thing that a lot of people kind of forget this, but MMA grappling and wrestling are just two totally different things, right? Bryce Mitchell, he pretty much has no wrestling accolades or credentials. I think he maybe wrestled in high school for a bit, but he doesn't really have the pedigree. I think Josh Emmett actually might have more of a wrestling pedigree than Bryce Mitchell. But in the MMA cage, it's just a lot different. You see how Bryce Mitchell is able to flow from transition to transition, chain his takedowns. He has a low takedown accuracy, but once he gets a hold of you and is able to take you down, take your back, he's able to control pretty well and is able to set up those subs pretty well. Just overall, this guy's a menace on the ground. Is what I'm trying to say. I think that he's actually a menace. So I think that right now, even with Bryce's unorthodox striking, I feel that Bryce is going to win by decision or sub. I will lean towards decision. I think that he's probably going to control Josh Emmett for all 15 minutes. So give me Bryce Mitchell. I think he's a potential parlay piece, but like Alex mentioned, I do agree with this. I'll probably need to look at the face-offs to see how Bryce looks in particular coming on a short notice because he might just come in looking for a paycheck, right? And who knows? This guy's pretty entertaining though in terms of his interviews. So maybe the UFC is trying to push this guy. I don't know. He did call himself the cash cow in his last fights, and he was bringing out the Bible and all that. Like
Yeah.
this guy has good theatrics for sure. So I want to see how he looks. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. But pick here is Bryce and potential parlay piece for me. Let's move on to the main card of the evening. We're finally at the main card. It's been a great journey. This is going to be Vicente Luque versus Ian Machado Garry. I'm tuning in for this fight, definitely. This is going to be a fun fight. So Vicente Luque, he's 22, 9-1. He's coming off of that decision victory over RDA, and he is fighting Ian Garry, 13-0, 5-0 in his last five. Ian Garry, I believe, is coming off of that knockout win over Neil Magny, I believe. And right now, the younger fighter will be Ian Garry. He's going to be the slightly taller fighter as well. Luque actually has a 2-inch reach advantage as well, so that's a pretty interesting. Actually, I was mistaken. I think the win was a unanimous decision against Neil Magny, but I swear I could remember that he knocked him out or something. But it was actually a decision win over Neil Magny there. Fight odds right now for this fight, we have Ian Garry at minus 375. So the odds are definitely widening. He was a minus 250 favorite and he opened up at minus 250. Now he's a minus 375. And Alex, yeah, I'll let you start off with the main card as well. What do you think about this fight between Vicente Luque and Ian Garry here?
So yeah, the odds are a bit wide for me to want to play this personally. I actually do think there's still some question marks to Ian Garry's game that we just haven't seen yet, particularly in the grappling and wrestling department. Um, so when I watch Ian Garry, his striking is so smooth. The way he's able to utilize his jabs, kicks, he really has like the full uh, wide range of striking abilities. Um, what I'm really interested in is Vicente Luque's game plan in this fight. I think if he gets into a striking match with Ian Garry, it's game over. Because Vicente Luque, he gets hit a lot, doesn't really have that much head movement. But what I'm interested in seeing is if Luque is going to kind of, implement a grapple heavy game plan. And what I mean by that is, when they're, face to face in the cage, if Luque can, potentially pressure him, get him backed up against the cage, and then, just push him against the cage for, the majority of the round and steal wins like that. Um, that's going to be pretty interesting to see because I kind of think that's his, path to victory. Especially, in Vicente Luque's last fight against RDA, both fighters were kind of just pushing each other against the cage. So Luque definitely has, that pedigree to implement that kind of grapple heavy game plan, especially again, like I keep going back to this with um, Machado's like kind of uh, thin frame. I feel like Luque can have some success doing that. And again, we've also seen Ian Garry get randomly cracked by fighters like Song Kanan. Um, so in terms of a bet, I wouldn't. I'm looking at the over 1.5 as a potential parlay piece. Feel like Luque is a pretty durable guy, and especially if he does go with that game plan of just hugging him against the cage, I can see that hitting. And then I also wouldn't mind like a long shot bet for like a Luque submission victory. If he can get him to the ground, find a submission, he can that can be like a juicy juicy pick right there. But yeah, that's kind of how I'm looking at this fight. Should be a really exciting and interesting one.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a super fun fight. Potentially fight of the night if things go well here. So Vicente Luque, good striker. I think that he is a bit of a brawler, though. He's proficient in the looping shots, Muay Thai strikes, good power. Has a pretty good lead hook and can work in counters and combos. I do think that Vicente is maybe a little too comfortable getting to firefights. It's worked out for him in the past, but he was KO'd by Jeff Neal in his last loss in the UFC. And I think that ever since that loss, his willingness to get into brawls has lessened because he talked about having a brain hemorrhage, brain bleed. So that really affected kind of his career going forward. He looked a little less aggressive in his last decision win over RDA, worked in a lot more grappling, takedowns. I do think that he has a good grappling prowess. He can hunt for subs on the ground. He has 5 subs in the UFC. 33% of his UFC wins are by submission. He has a black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and has decent ground and pound on the top. I think that for this fight, I just feel like I'm leaning Ian Garry. The reason why is I think that Ian's going to be a slick and smooth striker. He has the skill set to mix in the punches and the kicks. Accurate striker. His striking reminds me of the Conor McGregor saying, precision beats power, timing beats speed. This guy is a really highly accurate striker. He flows through his combos and attacks all 3 levels, the head, the bodies, and the legs. Just look at his last fight with Neil Magny. He was chopping this dude's legs, comboing him in the body and the head, just working him all over the place. He pumps out good volume and has good accuracy, so that can just be overwhelming for most opponents. I think that Ian, the one detriment in his fighting style is that he does need to improve his striking defense. He leaves his chin exposed as he backs up and attempts to strike and counter. That was shown in the fight where he almost was KO'd by Song Kanan pretty badly. But the good thing about that fight is that it showed me that Ian does have some decent durability and recovery. He came back from that knockdown that Song put on him and actually ended up KOing Song near the end of the fight. So just going back to his grappling background, Ian does have a background in judo. He's able to mix in some takedowns when his opponents are worried about his striking. I believe that he took down Neil Magny twice. I don't think that this fight is going to be played on the ground or grappling too much, though. I think that Ian has Vicente covered on the feet, and Vicente, I believe that he's going to try to implement the same game plan that he had for RDA, but taking down an undersized 39-year-old welterweight in RDA, it just doesn't have me convinced that Vicente will be able to ground Ian for long. So I think that Ian will sprawl and brawl his way to either a decision victory or a late KO. I just don't trust Vicente after saying he said that he had a brain hemorrhage, and I feel like he looked he looked less of himself, like a lesser version of himself in the last fight in RDA. People also kind of forget that that RDA fight, it was a close fight in terms of the rounds, right? It was like I think some of the judges' scorecard was 48-47. So it was a super close fight. I will say that Ian Garry by decision or KO. The only reason why I'm not locking this guy in a parlay right now is because of everything that's going on around him. Like I have no idea if this is like affecting him. I don't think it should because when he's in the cage, I feel like he's just gonna style out there and kind of free flow. But I don't know. There's a lot of nasty comments right now that are coming in. This guy's blocked his social media. The press conference is going to be crazy. I don't even know he's going to show up. Honestly, like Colby Covington's going to be there. Like this is going to be tough for him. So the pick here is Ian Garry, but I think I'm going to probably stay away just because of the price tag and everything that's going on around him. I just don't trust it too much. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he puts on a masterclass. Is all I'm trying to say. But I just don't trust this guy's mental abilities right now compared to what he's dealing with. Let's move on to the next fight. We have Tony Ferguson versus Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. This is going to be, I think, a potential retirement fight right here, unfortunately, for Tony Ferguson. Tony
Dang.
Ferguson, yeah, no, this it's bad, man. I mean, Tony's coming off 6 straight losses. This might be seven here. He's 25-9, 0-5 in his last five. I don't say that often. 0-5. So he's 0-5 in his last five. He's coming off an arm triangle choke loss to Bobby Green. Uh, Not a good look. He's fighting against Paddy the Baddy Pimblett, 20-3, 5-0 in his last five. Paddy's coming off of that decision robbery win over Jared Gordon. Paddy's going to be the much younger fighter here, and they both have the same height, but Tony does enjoy a 3.5 inch reach advantage there. Going for the odds for this fight right now, Tony Ferguson and Paddy Pimblett. Paddy Pimblett's a minus 286, open up at a minus 250. I mean, I'm kind of sad to break down Tony at this point. I mean, he's coming off a 6 fight losing streak. Before his loss to Justin Gaethje, he was just a different fighter, man. I mean, he fought with a nice high pace, unorthodox style. He had like a crazy funk to his game, a killer instinct. He was able to land sharp elbows and leg kicks, dish out high damage as well. He also had a crazy good grappling game too, in my opinion. He came from a wrestling background and was able to sprawl and brawl pretty well. But his highly diverse skill set on the ground in top or bottom position just really made him dangerous for the lightweight division. He was able to find strikes or subs everywhere. Unfortunately, ever since that Gaethje loss, I mean, I just think that he's been in a clear decline. He used to be this extraordinary physical force that was able to outlast everyone with his durability and his cardio. I just think that Tony's fight game is just all but gone. That last loss to Bobby Green, that was the final nail in the coffin for me. Just getting subbed by Bobby Green. Yeah, this is not going to be good. I mean, Paddy, I will say that he's a pretty good grappler. He's a grappling based kind of fighter. He's able to hunt for subs in the ground, has slick grappling. He's more of a BJJ grappler than a wrestler. So, you know, he was taken down and controlled by Jared Gordon his last win, which was a robbery. But I do think that Paddy has some power in his hands, good quickness as well. Decent quickness, actually, that's kind of underrated. The bad thing about Paddy is that he just leaves his chin in the air to weather storms and is hittable. But to his credit, he's never been KO'd before. So, yeah, I think I'm fading Tony Ferguson here. I mean, 39 years old, turning 40 in a couple months, fighting against Paddy the Baddy, who the UFC, they know they want to build this guy up. Even if he's not the best fighter, he brings in a lot of attention for the UFC. I think that they're obviously feeding Tony to Paddy here. I think it's pretty obvious. So let me slam Paddy the Baddy parlay piece. He's going to be my first pure pick lock for a parlay piece. Just put this guy in here. Yeah, I think it's over for Tony after this. So,
Yo,
what
but
do you think about this fight?
Tony's been training with that military guy, bro.
Dude, goggles. See,
Yeah.
that's the thing, man. Like, I don't think Tony's problem has been his durability or just his cardio. I think this his problem has just been I just think that he's declined as far as the physical. Like he just doesn't. He looks kind of weak in there. You know what I mean? Like it looks like an old dude fighting in there. It just looks kind of bad sometimes. So
Yeah,
it's
I guess.
not good.
Yeah, yeah. He looks old. He looks old in the cage, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fair. Uh, and like I don't know. I'm not as confident as you. I'm probably gonna pass on this fight just because Tony does have quality losses. Like Bobby Green is good. I mean, his last fights have all been L's to good opponents. Um, and obviously, I don't rate Paddy like too highly. Um, but like the UFC does want to build him up. So maybe Paddy by decision, because you might have the judges in your back pocket. But yeah, no play for me here.
for sure. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can see that too. I mean, trust me, man, I'm a huge fan of Tony. I respect the guy, and I would never imagine it getting to this point where I'm fading him against a guy like Paddy Pimblett, but I think we've reached that point. Unfortunately, it's just a lot of L's, man, a lot of L's. So let's move on to the third fight on the main card. We have Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Shavkat is 17-0, a perfect record. He's 5-0 in his last five. He's coming off of that submission victory over Jeff Neal. He's fighting against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Wonderboy Thompson is 17-6-1. He is 3-2 in his last five, coming off of that TKO victory over Kevin Holland. Wonderboy's going to be 40 years old compared to Shavkat, who's 29 years old, so a huge age gap right there. And Shavkat would actually enjoy the 2-inch reach advantage. They're both around the same height. Getting to the odds, this is also a little juiced as well. Shavkat is minus 650, open up at a minus 300. Alex, I'll let you take the floor here. What do you think about Shavkat versus Wonderboy here?
Gigalock.
It's the-
Yeah, man. Shavkat's a gigalock here, dude. Like this guy missed his own sister's wedding, man.
Yeah.
Like that tells you something, man. Yeah, I don't see a path to victory for Wonder Boy. I think we'll definitely see Shavkat chase a finish to keep his perfect record intact. He has none of his fights have ever gone to a decision, and so I think he's gonna go for like most likely a submission, but I think he's gonna chase a finish of some sort. But yeah, give me Shavkat here all day, Gigalock.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I have a lot of notes here, but I might just make it short and simple as well. I think that Shavkat is a lock. I mean, he's a dangerous sambo style fighter. Is dangerous literally everywhere. Just look at his record. I mean, this guy has like 9 submissions, 8 knockouts, finishes everyone in sight. I think he's probably just gonna take Stephen Wonderboy Thompson down and like ground and pound this guy or something. Maybe sub him, but I will say that Thompson has never been subbed yet, I think, in the UFC. So that's a really interesting point right there. But man, this guy is 29 years old in the prime of his career. I think he's just gonna out physical Wonderboy on the ground and just kind of ground pound him to death, probably by knockout. Um, yeah, safe parlay piece to me. I don't think we need to break down this fight too much more. The only reason why I'm that confident, by the way, in Shavkat is that once again, the UFC is most likely giving Wonderboy a bad matchup because A, they want to feed Shavkat to a brand name to kind of build up his resume a little bit more. And B, Wonderboy did not want to fight Michelle Pereira when Michelle missed weight. And that rubbed and he was talking about like, where's my show money and all that. That pisses Uncle Dana off pretty badly. So I mean, I just think that they're feeding him this guy who's 17-0 all finishes. That's yeah, they don't want Wonder Boy to win this fight. So I think Shavkat, rightful favorite, rightful odds in my opinion. Just stuff him in like any of your parlays, and you'll probably be fine. He's the what we call a parlay juicer. So yeah, just put him in any parlay. So moving on to the next fight on the co-main event, we have Alexandre Pantoja versus Brandon Royval. This is going to be the co-main event for the flyweight title. It's actually going to be the rematch they fought a couple years ago, I believe. Pantoja, the cannibal, 26-5. He is 4-1 in his last five, coming off of that split decision victory over Brandon Moreno for the championship. Very good fight. One of the great fights of the year so far. He's fighting against Brandon Royval, raw dog, 15-6, 3-2 in his last five. He's coming in off of that KO victory over Matheus Nicolau. Brandon Royval will be the slightly younger fighter, but not too much difference there. He will be the bigger fighter overall. He has a 4-inch height advantage here. Odds for this fight. Pantoja opened up at a minus 260, and he has since been bet down to minus 190. So actually, a lot of people have been taking dog odds on Royval over the last few months or so, actually, because I think these odds opened up in September, so they've been
Mm.
up and up for quite a while, actually. Interesting. Yeah, Pantoja, I mean, he's a good all-around fighter. He has solid striking, above average grappling. I think he's a fantastic grappling. Don't want to disrespect the champ too much. He has a good calf kick, able to press forward, really great durability as well. Works the body with kicks and punches. I also think he has good straight shots that have a lot of pop on them at the end. His grappling though is where I think he really shines. He can flow through the transitions really well. Scrambles are excellent. He's able to take the back with ease in a lot of these fights, and he's a rear naked choke guru. I mean, look at how many all these like rear naked chokes this guy has had in his career thus far. So I also think that he has a solid ground pound in the top position as well. Pantoja also has a great gas tank, and we saw in the last fight he's able to work well within 5 round situations. Rival, kind of the opposite. He is the definition of kill or be killed, boom or bust. He has good striking, good wide range of attacks, and get a little wild. It's worked out for him at points, and sometimes it doesn't work out for him. He finished Mateus Nicolau with that style, but he also can get dropped or taken down himself in these wild exchanges, like we saw in his loss against Brandon Moreno, and also in the first matchup between these two. Ravel has good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. I think he is slick on the ground with his subs. He's more of a sub over position fighter. Will hunt for subs rather than try to defend or get back up. This is a rematch from 2 years ago. I just don't see how this is going to go any different. I believe that Pantoja should have leveled up after becoming a champ to offset any improvement that Raval has made. An example of a championship level fighter leveling up is when Leon Edward, he beat Kamaru Usman, right? After the headshot dead, you saw in that third fight, Leon came in and was a much better fighter. I do think that once you win the championship, you're that much hungrier, especially in your first title defense, to improve your game and constantly get better. The only reservation that I have right now is the odds. That seems uh, maybe I'm missing something. I don't know because I would imagine that the odds would be even wider, right? Pantoja won this matchup in the first time, but people are actually buying in on Royval, and now Pantoja is a minus 190. So the pick here is Pantoja inside the distance. I do think that he's a potential parlay piece, but I'm going to hold off until the end of the week on face-offs to lock it in. I just feel like that line's a little trappy. I don't know why. Minus 190 is like they almost want you to buy that line for some reason. So I'll take Pantoja inside the distance. Alex, what do you think about this?
Yeah, so I feel like I have a pretty good read on this fight. I mean, I think this is going to be I think this is going to be a really exciting fight. I'm really looking forward to this one. Um, so when I broke down this fight, right, there are three things that kind of jump out to me. The first is Royval's constant pace and pressure. He's almost always the one moving forward. Number two, kind of counter to what you said, but it's Pantoja's gas tank. So he starts the first round of every fight like incredibly strong. But visually, it looks like he's kind of starting to fade. The later the fight goes on, like it just looks like he's breathing heavy. But I will say though, he does still manage to like, get these takedowns and hit pretty hard. So that's number two is his gas tank, and then number three is Pantoja. He's gonna have the raw strength advantage over Royval. I think, similar to the first fight between them, Pantoja is going to be able to find those takedowns. Um, so I kind of understand why Royval is a popular underdog bet in this fight. Similar to the Brandon Moreno fight against Pantoja. If Royval can kind of just survive the first, round and a half, 2 rounds, his pace and pressure can kind of just, be too much for Pantoja. Like in that first fight, that first round, it was like a heavy, heavy grappling exchange with a lot of transitions. And when Royval got out of it, Pantoja looked like he was, kind of starting to gas. He was breathing heavy. Um, but Royval just found himself getting taken down again and getting rear naked choked. Um, so um, the issue, so like I'm picking Pantoja to win here, and I think that the issue with if you're picking Royval to win because you think he's going to survive a round and a half, then be able to kind of outpace Pantoja. The issue I see with that is um, Royval's Brandon Royval's like pressure and pace is what gets him taken down. Like he'll keep moving forward and he'll kind of like lose that balance. And he is very like thin frame, and so it's very easy for someone like Pantoja who has a lot of raw strength to take him down. And so, he does have a good get up game, but I think he's gonna constantly find himself in these in bottom position and getting his back taken. So yeah, I mean, I like Pantoja here. I think he's gonna win. I think he's either gonna get the early round sub or it's gonna go to decision. But yeah, give me Pantoja in this fight.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I similar to you. I mean, I agree with that. So, do you think it's a little trap? Like, why is a lot of people taking the dog odds? Because the odds didn't get any higher. They have just gotten lower in the last few months.
Yeah, so like when I watched that first fight between them, dude, Pantoja was gassed after
Who's guys?
uh, that first round exchange, and like if I'm a live better, that was something where I would actually bet on Royval after losing that first round. But yeah, again, like Royval just, he he always gets taken down because he's moving forward so much. So I think people are just seeing that pace, that pressure, and kind of fading Pantoja's gas tank, especially in a 5 round fight. I think that's why people are taking Royval. But yeah, I'm going Pantoja here.
Cool. Well, yeah, we'll see what happens in the co-main event. I think that is also, for as long as it lasts, could be a potential another candidate for fight of the night. So see what happens there. Let's move on to the main event of the night for UFC 296. This is going to be Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington for the welterweight championship. Leon Rocky Edwards, 21-3. He is 5, pretty much 4-0 in his last five. He did have that no contest in between with Bilal Muhammad where he kind of eye poked him, and that was considered no contest. He's coming off of obviously a win over Kamaru Usman decision majority, and he's fighting against Colby Chaos Covington, 17-3, 3-2 in his last five, coming off of that decision victory over Jorge Masvidal. Colby will be the older fighter here at 35 compared to Leon 32. And Leon will be the larger fighter here. He has about a 3-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. Odds for this fight right now: Colby Covington and Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards minus 159. He opened up at a minus 145. Alex, I'll let you take the first stab at the main event. What do you think about Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington here?
Um, so I think, man, I don't really have a good read on this fight. I don't know why the odds are this close. Um, I think that, I think a lot of bettors on that are on Colby Covington think that he's gonna basically wrestle Leon and kind of be able to have top position for across 5 rounds. Um, Especially with Colby's insane. Uh, he doesn't fade in a fight. Like, yeah, he's super durable. He can last all 25 minutes. Um, but yeah, like when Colby he was fighting Usman, obviously he didn't shoot for takedowns as much, right? And I think he didn't do that because he knew that Usman was a very great wrestler. Whereas then you see in his fight against Colby's fight against Masvidal, he was like, okay, this guy can't really wrestle. I'm just gonna control him. Um, so I think, like in this fight against Leon Edwards, Colby's gonna have that like same mindset where it's like, oh, dude, I'm just gonna wrestle this guy, and kind of grapple him. So that's like the part where like I just don't know, like are are Colby and Usman similar wrestlers? Because Leon was able to in the second fight, Leon was able to stuff Usman's wrestling attempts. Are they the same type of, wrestler? Seems like Colby might be more like sticky and uh, like aggressive, but yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of question marks because Colby hasn't fought in a while either. So and he knows, like it's pretty much his last shot at the title. I'm not even sure if he deserved like this title fight, but yeah, he's gonna come out looking juiced and looking to prove something. Um, but yeah, I don't have a pick here. Curious to know what your thoughts are, James.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is a difficult fight to capture just with all the things you mentioned. This is, Leon, he's a high level striker. I think he prefers to counter strike more than pressure forward. So that might be where the stylistic matchup could lie, where Kobe's going to just keep on coming forward. But is Kobe going to be able to eat some of those shots that are going to come? Because we saw what Leon Edwards did to Kamaru Usman in that last fight. He was making Kamaru pay for a lot of those shots. Leon does have a nice hook, able to keep his range with clean 1-2s. Going back to that hook, Jorge Masvidal did drop Kobe Covington and made him take a knee for the first responders with a hook. And I can imagine, I can imagine if Leon Edwards hits you with that hook, he that might not be the same case because Jorge Masvidal, to be fair, he's kind of washed already. So I don't know if he's the best fighter to fight that. Leon has an excellent kicking game, can bide his time, set up the headshot dead at any point in the fight. Uh, Prefers to fight at long range, patient striker. I also think he has pretty decent clinch work as well. He has a good collar tie where he can use his dirty boxing, good sharp elbows as well. He's also an underrated grappler. I think that he's improved ever since he's entered the UFC. He likes to use single legs to get opponents near the cage if they're deficient in grappling. Like we saw in the Nate Diaz fight, I think he took down Nate Diaz a few times. He's able to implement trips as well. He was one of I think he's the only person to take down, before this last fight Usman had, he was the only person to take down Usman in the second fight between him and Usman, where he tripped him and then actually, I think he took his back at some point too. So, very underrated grappler. Solid pace and cardio, can fight for all 25 minutes. This guy is dangerous for all 25 minutes, as we saw with the headshot dead KO. Colby, good wrestler, extreme cardio, able to chain wrestle relentlessly, averages 4 takedowns a fight, takedown accuracy of 45%. I think once Colby gets his opponents on the ground, and this is where he differs between him and Kamaru Usman, he's able to chain in transition subs, neck cranks, choke subs, just anything to really deter opponents from trying to get back up because he's really trying to kind of annoy opponents at that point, right? Like he's just trying to get them grounded and just having to deal with all these attempts of submissions or even kind of pillow hand strikes. Like his ground pound is okay, but it's just not much power in the ground pound, right? It's more so just to deter opponents and maybe distract them while he's setting up some kind of sub and holding you down on the ground. I think that Colby has also shown solid improvement on the feet. He pumps out a good volume with his punches, kicks. If you watch, I think one of his fights, he actually landed a head kick on Kamaru, but Kamaru kind of just ate it. So he does have solid striking technique, but he's just not a dangerous guy on the feet. That's just the kind of throughout his career he's shown just not has shown much power in his strikes. The only reason why I'm gonna pick Leon here, and I'm picking Leon by decision, is that there just hasn't been a good showing and track record for UFC fighters over age 35 in championship fights. I think the stat is something wild at this point, like what 2-30 something at this point. Because the last time I checked that stat, it was like 2-28, and I don't think that between the bantamweight division and the 170 division, fighters who are older, like older than age 35, have gone like 2-30 something at this point. The only two that have won is when Tyrone Woodley won, but he was fighting another old guy, I think, in like Robbie Lawler or something. And I forgot what the other one was, but it's just extremely rare for a fighter over the age of 35 to be a championship level fighter and champion in these weight classes. So I think Leon's just a system bet here, unfortunately for Colby, because I actually like Colby. I like him on the mic. He's funny. He brings in a lot of attention to the UFC. I just think that unfortunately he's always going to be one of those guys who plays for second just because of how his career played out. Um, so Leon by decision, I think he's a potential parlay piece too. I think he's actually really good value because Colby Covington has not fought. Just looking at this guy's strength of schedule, I mean, like he's not fought for nearly 2 years at this point. His last win was over Jorge Masvidal, Tyrone Woodley 3 years ago. Like this guy hasn't really been active. Also, a little tip that we got from our friend Kevin. This guy's been spending a lot of time at poker tables, a lot of a lot of inactivity, sitting down. Like is he training? I mean, I'm sure he's training, but like it takes a long time to play poker if you're a player. You're kind of sitting down, and he's been winning money too. I mean, like so it's a lot of time sitting down. So like I don't know, man. I just think that he's been just too inactive, especially fighting a guy like Rocky Edwards, who just like lives and breathes fighting at this point. So yeah, give me Leon Edwards as a parlay piece. Yeah, I'll lock it in. What do you think about the fight now? What is your pick now? Do you have a pick?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like all Leon has to do, right, and like just stuff takedowns. Like he
Yeah,
probably has it ingrained in his mind. Like that's how he's gonna lose is if he gets control. And so I mean, I think Leon's smart. He's a smart fighter and he's awesome on the feet. So yeah, I mean, I got Leon. I had Leon too, to be honest, but I
okay.
just didn't know why the odds were so close. I feel like they should be
Yeah,
wider.
exactly, exactly. And I think it's just that respect factor of Kobe being able to drown an opponent, and also the stylistic matchup that I mentioned earlier. I mean, Leon does like to counter more than he does. Like if he moved forward a little bit more, maybe the odds will be a little wider because they can maybe see it like a finish here. But he likes to be patient and bide his time. And Kobe's gonna like. Let's make no mistake. Kobe's gonna be the one who's gonna be the more aggressive fighter in this matchup, just because he's gonna come forward and try to grapple this guy. It's just going to be up to Leon to pick his shots and hurt Kobe when he does go in for the takedowns, just similarly to how he beat Kamaru Usman the last fight. So I see
Yep.
it playing out that way, and we'll see what happens. But I think it should be a entertaining fight nonetheless as a championship
Yep.
fight. Just to tell you guys right now, by the way, people think this fight is going to go to decision. So I would also think that. I mean, the over 4.5, it's minus 215 right now. So people
Damn.
think that this fight's going to decision for sure. So let's say that you want to pick a side, just pick either Colby by decision or Leon by decision, and just go with those plus odds. In my opinion, if you were to try to play this fight, but I'm really confident in Leon, so I'll stuff him in a parlay. Just me personally. All right, that about does it for the breakdown of UFC 296. Before we wrap up, Alex, I mean, do you have any potential parlays or picks that you have at the moment? I know the props and everything kind of just dropped today, so if you don't have any, that's fine. But any kind of parlays or picks that you would like to share with the pure pickers that has good value attached to it right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, like I broke this down, but I really feel like the Fili and Almeida fight is going to end in a submission. Could get some like nice odds there. But other than that, I mean, you guys will have to see on Bet MMA tips.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to release that for sure. I mean, this is a freemium content at the moment, but it's going to be premium pro content in a few days, in maybe a week or so. So, we'll see what happens there. As for me, I don't really have any plays right now. Maybe I'll get some plays in with Top G Gerard in the best bets video. But for sure, all of our locks, gig and locks will be on Bet MMA tips coming out on Friday. So, we'll see what happens with this card. I think it's gonna be a banger event. UFC 296 gonna be a great event. So everyone, please tune in. Me and Alex we'll be back for next week for the actually this is going to be the last fight card for the year.
The
So
year.
the next fight
Yeah.
card is going to be in January. So yeah, if you're kind of itching to put those plays in, I best advise you to do it now because there won't be another UFC event for another few weeks for the holiday season. Other than that, we'll just wrap it up now. Pure Pickers, Pure Pick Nation, thank you for supporting us throughout these last couple months. It's been a fantastic time doing these content with you and doing the videos. So please ride with us into 2024 and everybody
Yeah.
have a great holiday season.
One quick thing. Yeah, we appreciate all the comments on YouTube. Please, everyone, keep commenting, liking, all of that stuff, man. It means a lot. It's fun reading these comments, good or bad. Yeah, no, it's fun, man.
Yeah, I've been having a blast reading every single comment and responding to all of them. So let's just continue to have a great time out there, guys. All right, that about does it. See you guys soon. Pure Picks, we're out.